Hey there, my name is Kelly Dale with Off the Beaded Path. Last week I showed you how to do the odd count peyote stitch. And today I'm going to show you a new project that I call the Cathedral Windows Earrings. And in this project you're going to learn how to do square stitch. Now this project is not hard per se, but it is tedious, especially if you've never done square stitch before. And because we're going to be working on such a smaller surface, making an earring rather than a larger. So to do this project, you're going to need about 2 grams of a size 11 Delica and 16 3mm Bicones. You're also going to need about 15 size 15 seed beads. Other than that, you're going to need a pair of ear hooks as well as a size 12 needle. And I know some of you are going to look at your mat and say, oh, I only have a 10. You can use a 10, but it is going to bust some of your beads if you're not careful. So make sure that you listen to what I say and you use a 12 needle. Also, you're going to need thread. Now, you're going to see thread on the outside of your piece. That's just how square stitch is. So it's very important that you try and use a thread that kind of gets as close to the color of Delica you're using as possible. So I like to suggest using either Nymo thread or 1G thread for this project so that you get really good results and won't see actually a lot of the thread. Now, if you don't have that, you can use a 6-pound fire line, but I would not go over the 6-pound fire line. You would almost be better using a 4-pound or a 6-pound. So let's go ahead and get our stuff together. You're gonna need to thread your needle to start off with 1.5 yards of fire line, or your thread, whichever one you're going to use. The 1.5 yards will complete one earring and will give you just a little bit left over. So let's go ahead and get started. So here's the earrings that I'm going to show you how to make today. I call these the Cathedral windows because they have a window look and then they have a cutout in the center where our actual crystals are going to be. So if you are a tight stitcher like me, your piece is going to be good and sturdy, especially if you do the square stitch like I explained. If you are a very loose stitcher, you might want to invest in some of this. It's called Pledge Floor Care. This is for the multi-surface finish. But what this does, this allows your piece to be stiff and it doesn't destroy your beads or your crystals. So here's one that I've actually dipped in the future, or it used to be called Future Floor Wax, but this one is dipped and it's just as stiff as what I've made here. So it just kind of depends on what you've got. Now, if you want a really stiff piece, you can dip these several times, and I'll show you how to do that. But to get started, I've got my needle threaded with my 1.5 yards of thread, and I'm going to be using just my Delicas. So basically what we're going to start with is we are going to be working one column, coming across, working another column, and then we'll do the top and the bottom. So to start, I'm going to pick up 2 size 11 Delicas, and I'm going to hold those and let these drop. Now when I let these drop, I'm going to leave myself just a little bit of a tail, not much. Now I'm going to hold these 2 beads into place. I'm going to pick up 1 11-0 Delica, and I'm going to go up through the second bead that I picked up, and I'm going back up through it. And I'm going to hold that bead in place, pull the thread, so that the new bead sits right next to the bead I just went through. Now I'm going to come down through the bead I just added, and again, if you want to, put your finger on it so it stays tight as you work. Okay. Now I'm ready to add the next bead. So I'm going to pick up 1 bead. I'm going to come up through the first bead that I threaded on, which is this one here. I'm going to hold it in place and pull. And then I'm going to go down through the bead that I just added, which is this one here. And when you do that, this will straighten up all of your work here, so that it'll look just like this. And I'm going to scoot these out of the way. So it'll look just like this. And this is an important step. After you finish a row, you're going to go up through the previous row and then down through the row that you're adding. This is going to help keep everything tight as you work. Well, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to pick up one Delica. My thread is coming out of, there we go. My thread is coming out of the bottom of this stack. So I'm going to take my needle, I'm going to come back down through the same bead, this bottom bead that my thread's exiting. My new bead pops right next to the previous bead, and then I'm going to go up through the bead that I just added. And I'm going to hold that bead and pull the thread. Now, I'm going to pick up one Delica. I'm going to go down through the top bead here. I'm going to pull this on through, and then I'm going to go up through the bead that I just added, which is going to be this bead right here. Now, once I get this pulled through, I'm going to go down through the whole previous row here, and then up through the row that I just added, which is going to be this row here. So far I have 3 rows. So now my thread is coming out of the top of that row, so that means I'm going to pick up one Delica. I'm going to go up through the top bead of that row, and I'm going to pull the thread so that my new bead pops into place, and I'm going to go down through that bead, and you can see here I'm holding that bead in place as I work. Now I'm going to pick up another Delica. I'm going to go up through the bottom bead here of the row. I'm going to pull this on through, and then I'm going to come down through the bead that I just added, which is going to be this bead here, and I'm going to now go up through the previous row. Make sure you go through both beads, and then through the row I just added. So I'm going to do one more row here before I let you keep going. So I'm going to pick up one Delica. I'm going to come down through the bead that I'm coming out of to make a circle. I'm going to make sure it pops into place, and then I'm going to come up through that bead that I just added, holding it in place. Now I'm going to pick up one Delica. I'm going to come down through the top bead of that row, and then up through the bead that I just added. And I'm going to come down through the previous row and up through my current row. Okay, so you count your rows. You can either count them starting here and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or you can count your top holes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have 5 rows, and I'm going to continue this until I have a total of 15 rows. So once you've finished your 15 rows, this is what your piece will look like. Now, as you can see, my piece, when I do like this, my piece is not flimsy, okay? It stays stiff and straight, and that's what you want. If your piece, if you do this and it flops back and forth, that means it's too loose, and you're going to have to go back and reinforce it. Now, at any point, you can get rid of this little tail thread, and I've already got my needle threaded on here. Your biggest thing is, just like with the odd count peyote, you don't want to see any knots in this piece. So you can pretty much do it just like we did by stitching through a few beads, which you've already stitched through several times, so you don't have to worry about this thread or the beads coming off. So you can just go ahead and thread through and snip that, and then you've got it covered. Now I'm coming out here on the very end, so I'm going to pick up 5 Delicas. Okay, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm going to let these beads drop. So what we're going to do is we're going to build another column down this way exactly like this one. So, and when you do that, this piece will move, and that's fine, no worries. But I'm going to try and hold it in my hand, kind of like this, to get started. I'm going to pick up one Delica, and I'm going to go through my 5th Delica, and I'm going to come back down through it like this. And I'm holding it in place, and pull in the thread. Now you can see that I have some thread here that you can see. So you want to take your finger and pull that thread straight out so where it makes that nice and tight, just like that. Okay, I'm going to come up through the bead that I just added. And this is the part to me that's tedious, is getting this second column built, because you have to be careful not to get your thread caught on this first column. I'm going to pick up another Delica. I'm going to come to the fourth Delica here of my set of 5, and I'm going to go through that bead. I'm going to come down through it. And if you want to, you can always bend this over your finger. Now I'm going to go up through the bead that I just added, and again I'm going to hold it in place, pull the thread. Okay, then we're going to go down through the first little row here, hold it in place, and then go up through the second row that we just built. Okay, so we're going to work on this row just like we did this row. So I'm going to pick up one Delica. I'm going to come up through this top Delica of my row. I'm going to pull this through. Well, pull it right out of my hand here. Pull it through, and then I'm going to come down through the bead that I just added. Okay, then pick up a Delica, come up through the bottom bead of that row, and then down through the bead I just added. Now, just like I did on this first column over here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go up through the previous row and then down through the row that I just added. And I'm going to continue until I have a total of 15 little columns of beads here, just like I have here at the top. Okay, so we're not doing anything with these 3 empty ones right now. We're just building this column. So once you finish your row of 15, this is what your piece will look like. When you finish the 15th row, your thread should be coming out towards you. Now here's the thing, when you finish that row, we really need to be coming up towards this column. So we have to come around to be able to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up through the bottom bead right next to where my thread is exiting. Okay, so I'm coming up through that bottom bead here. I'm going to pull that through, and then I'm going to come up through the top bead on the very end. Now, I'm going to pick up 3 Delicas. And just like down here where we have our empty 3, this is what this 3 is going to be. So I'm coming out right here, and I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to go through just the first bead here of this column, this bottom looking bead, and I'm going to pull the thread to where it comes together. So now you have what looks kind of like a little lopsided rectangle. Now we have to work square stitch. So again, I'm going to pick up one bead. I'm going to come right back up through the one bead I'm coming out of, pull that, and go through the new bead. And I'm holding it and pulling it, and then I'm going to pick up another bead. I'm going to come to the next bead in my row, which is this one here. I'm going to come up through that bead. I'm going to pull it through, and then I'm going to go through the bead I just added. Now once I've done that, just like I did down here on my rows, I'm going to go up through the 2 previous beads, and it takes a little maneuver in here. So I'll go up through those 2 beads and then through the 2 beads that I've added. This helps to pull them together, kind of compact them, get them good to go. So this third bead I'm going to do a little bit differently, because you can see when I do this, this will be coming out of the middle bead of my set of 3 that I added. So I'm going to go through that bead and I'm going to pull it through. Now, I'm going to leave this laying on my mat, and this is where my 3mm bicones are going to come in. So I'm going to pick up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 of these. And depending on your brand of bead you use will depend on how far down your 3 millimeters will go. I don't like to go any further than this or connect them here at the bottom. If I add another one and connect it, the sides tend to kind of pucker up, and that's not what you want. So I've done this, and I'm going to pick up 1/15, and then I'm going to go up through those 3 millimeters again. So I'm going straight back up through my little column of beads. I'm going to hold this into place, and I'm going to pull that thread, making sure I pull straight up so that this is what your piece will look like at the moment. Now I'm going to go back through that third bead here, just like I was going to finish it. Let's see, here we go. Okay, so I'm going through the third bead here at the top. That's my middle bead that I'd added. And then just like I'm going to keep going, I'm going to go through the bead that I just added, that Delica bead. So that fixes that square stitch and puts those together. So I've got 2 more square stitch pieces to do. So I'm going to pick up a Delica. I'm going to come to the next Delica, go through that bead, pull it through, and then go through the bead I just added. And you can go through the 2 previous beads and then the top 2 here. Treat it like a column almost. And this helps keep everything tight. And then I'm going to pick up 1 bead. I'm going to come to my next bead, go through it, and then come back through this bead. Pull that nice and tight so that this is what my piece will look like so far. So from where I'm coming out, I'm going to come down through my row, and I'm going to stitch through. Let me get it here, see if I can get it a little clearer so you can see it. There we go. So I'm stitching through this bottom row of beads until I come out of the third bead of my little set of 3. So I've stitched straight through them. There we go. And then I'm going to come through the second bead here. It's the bead right above where my thread is coming out. So that now my piece will look like this. So now I'm going to work 3 square stitches. So pick up 1 Delica. I'm going to come back down through that same bead I'm coming out of so that it makes a circle. But this time you'll see I'm going to be coming up through that bead to the outside like that. Well, I don't need that because I can't add beads this way. So I'm just going to come down through the bead I was coming out of and then through the next bead on that row. So that way it gets me into position to add my next square stitch bead. So I'm going to add an 11. I'm going to come back down through the 1 bead that I'm coming out of so it makes a circle. And then this time I'll go up through both of those beads here at the top and then through all 3, so 1, 2, and 3, so that I'm coming out now where I need to be. Again, this will just help to reinforce it and hold everything together. So I've got 1 more bead here. So I've come down through this one, I've picked this one up, and then I'm just going to go through 2 beads this time. Okay? I'm going to pick up 1 Delica, and I'm going to come through that middle one right here to make my little circle. And now you can see how it's tapered here at the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and reinforce this just by going back through this Delica, through the Delica right below it, and then through this top bead one more time. So now I'm ready for my 15s. I'm going to use in my 6 15s, and I'm going to come back through this same Delica so that it makes a little circle of beads. Now I'm going to reinforce this circle a couple of times, and then I'm going to stitch down through my beads to where I'm coming out of these beads here along the bottom edge. Once I've stitched down to the bottom, the problem is going to be that I won't be coming out over here where I need to be at. So I'm going to do that turnaround again, where I'm going to come up through the previous bead on the row, and then through the top bead, and I'm going to keep stitching through to where I'm coming out of that first bead of my column. Okay, so got this so far, and now just like I did the top up here, we're going to work 5 stitches with square stitch. So I'm just going to come back through this one and through the new bead that I added, and then pick up 1. I'm going to come to the next bead on the row, and I'm going to go up through that one, if I can ever get it. Oh, dear heavens. Okay, well, there we go. Go through that one, and then come through the new bead that I just added and pull that through. Now, just like I did the columns, I'm going to come up through these first 2 beads here, and then down through the 2 beads that I just added. Again, that's going to pull it too for you and make it nice and tight. All right, I'm going to pick up a bead. I'm going to come to that 3rd one, go through it, and now we're not going to add anything like we did to the top. We're just going to keep going. So I'm going to come through 2 beads, and then through the 2 I just added. Okay, then a bead, go up through, down through, and then through the 2 beads. And it's kind of one of those things, I almost feel like it doesn't matter how you get there as long as you get there without your thread showing. So if you don't do it exactly like I've done it, but you're getting the same look to it, then hey, that is all that matters in my book. So pull that through. Okay, and then I'm going to go through my 2 beads here. Now, because I've done this, I need to be coming out of this bead right here so that it drops us down to 3 beads. So I'm just going to keep going and come out of that 1 bead here. So, and if you have to, there we go, bend it a little bit, then you got to do what you got to do. That's why I said using the 12 is so essential to this project, because if you don't, you are going to be really, really tight in these beads and possibly bust them. That's why I said be really careful here. Okay, so now we're going to square stitch 3 beads. So I'm going to come back through this bead. Okay, and since I'm exiting the wrong direction, I'm just going to come back through the bead on the base and then through the next bead here and pull that on through. Now I'm going to pick up a bead. I'm going to come back through the same bead my thread's coming out of to make that circle. And then I'm going to go through these 2 beads. And then this time I'm going to go through 3 beads here on this base. So that I go through the 2 and then the 1 that I need to be coming out of. I'm going to pick up 1 bead. I'm going to come back around through the same bead to make a circle. And then this time I'm going to go through 2 beads. Okay, now I'm just going to pick up my 1 bead, come back through the bead I'm coming out of to make the circle. Make sure that bead lays straight, because I just want 1 bead here. And then I'm going to get rid of this thread just by stitching through beads. Okay, and the good thing is, like I said, you have been through these beads so many times that you don't have to worry about this thing coming apart. So that's a really, really, really good thing. So once you've gone through a few beads here, we can go ahead and get rid of the thread. And when you look at it, you've been pulling it all these different little ways here. So you want to straighten it back up. And then technically I'm done. So I can add my ear hook to the top loop. But I know that some people are going to be the loosey-goosey type, and they're going to need this future floor wax. So I want to show you how I do this. I'm going to take just a regular styrofoam bowl, and if you are against using styrofoam, then just use a metal or a ceramic bowl or whatever you want to use. But I'm going to open up this floor wax, and I'm just going to kind of pour the floor wax over my piece like this. Then I'm going to pull out the piece, and I'm going to lay it on a napkin just like this, flat out, and let it dry. Now make sure the way you want this to look is laid out exactly like this for it to dry. Now I've got one here that is already dry. This one is completely dry, and you can see it is stiff. It is not floppy whatsoever, and it did not mess up my beads. And I'm going to bring it closer here so you can see it. It did not mess up my beads or my crystals at all. So now if it's not stiff enough, I could re-dip this again, or I can just leave it be and attach my ear hook. So this right here, I've used palladium and turquoise double AB, and in this sample I have used the 24 karat plated Delica with a fuchsia double AB. Now, I don't want to waste what I've got here, what I had left over in my bowl. So I'm going to go ahead and open the top. Let me move this out of the way here. I'm going to go ahead and open the top so that I've got this. And then I'm just going to take the bowl, and I'm going to bend the bowl a little bit and pour back in my leftovers. That way I don't waste any. And then I'm good to put the top back on, so that when you finish, now once it dries, you will be set and good to go. So I hope you guys enjoyed learning how to make the Cathedral window earrings. We do have the 2 color kits available on our website, as well as the instant download step-by-step pattern, and we also have a printed pattern that we can mail out to you, and all of those are available on my website, which is offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com. We also have a large assortment of Delicas if you need those as well. Now, the Pledge floor wax, I found this at my local Walmart's. This was actually in the grocery section where all the floor care items are. So again, it's the Pledge floor care, and it's for your multi-surface finish, okay? And like I said, it doesn't take a lot. At the time of this video, this product run about $6, and I think 85 cents is maybe what I paid for it at our Walmart. But this bottle will last you forever. So if you know another beader and you guys could left the top open, you guys could split the price of the bottle and just split it, then that would be great for both of you. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and we'll see you again next time. Bye bye.